KEET TV presents Homework Hotline, the after-school show that fuses learning with fun. Watch local teachers bring the classroom on air and online. This is Homework Hotline.
Hello and welcome. I am Jody Himango. I teach 7th grade science at McKinleyville Middle School, and I'm here with Pam Halstead.
Yes, and I taught science at Fortuna High School, so we got a double science thing going on today.
Great.
It's kind of exciting. Exciting for us anyway. We hope it is for you as well. So Jody did a really cool thing last time, and it was related to dyes and stuff, which sounds like really awesome. But today we're going to be taking a look at some local organisms, and this, I got this slideshow from a test that I gave my AP Environmental Science students, because I figure if you're going to learn about the environment, you should know something about what lives in the environment. So
naturally.
Yeah, naturally, exactly. And so what we're going to do then is we'll go along the slideshow here. And first we're going to try to identify as best we can. So the common name is just fine and dandy. We don't need to worry about the scientific names. Sometimes we might know it, but don't even worry about it. So we're going to, in here, I also have it as an example. It should be a familiar organism, which is kind of hard to see, but there it is. It's a tree. It's big, it's tall, it's the tallest tree we have. Indeed, it's the redwood, and it's the coast redwood, because there's 3 different kinds of redwood trees. And so the Dawn redwood's native to China, but so coast redwood would be the common name for this tree. And its scientific name, do you know it? Don't worry if you don't. I'm just asking just in case.
You know, I'm not good with my scientific names.
No problem at all.
Sequoia sempervirens.
You got it, totally, that's it. Sequoia sempervirens, which just means the ever living, because dying is not really a thing for redwoods, because yeah, exactly. So anyway, we'll just try to see if we know the common name. And when I gave the test for students, I either have that they know the common name, or they can tell me what the organism does in the environment. So that's our next thing we're going to try, which is we're going to look at the ecosystem where these organisms live. And I have here a mangrove swamp, which is nowhere around here, but it's just kind of a cool ecosystem. And the niche, and you can call this niche or niche if you're French, or niche. Either it's like tomato, so whatever you want to call it. I go niche. All right, so in terms of the ecosystem, is it a watery ecosystem, or is it on the land? So is it aquatic or terrestrial, or is it some combination? And around here, what kind of combinations do we have? The marsh is a good example of that. So the marsh has both water, things that live in water, and things that live on land at the same time. And like a frog, goes into the water to reproduce and then comes out or sometimes swims around. Okay, so the niche is its role in the environment. What is it that this organism does in the environment? So let's take a look. One of the examples is it a producer, or is it a producer or an autotroph? So a producer is an organism that photosynthesizes, and either photosynthesis or chemosynthesis. So they either use chemicals or they use light to basically make food that we eat. So when we eat plants, we're eating the food that was made by, in most cases, a photosynthesizer. So plants, algae, lichen is a weird organism because it has it's got fungus and algae. So it kind of has 2 things going on. And then bacteria, which we're not going to look at today. And then, like Jody and I, we are consumers, or also known as heterotrophs, which just means other feeder. And we require other organisms for food, and the examples are us, animals, and animals, fungus, and then the lichen, which has fungus too. But we can be, so if you were to eat, you're an eater of plants, only plants, what kind of vor would you be?
I'm an herbivore.
Yes, and so can you name the other vors? I think it's on the slide.
Carnivore.
Please. Yes.
Meat eater.
Yes.
Omnivore. Eating of everything.
Yes.
Which is a better descriptor of me.
Yes, that's true. And then things like sow bugs and earthworms and crabs they eat dead stuff. They're called detritivores. So that's detritus. And then there's decomposers, but they're not the same as detritivores, but they actually break the dead stuff down. So bacteria and fungus are decomposers. All right, so with all that, here we go. Let's take a look at the organisms. Here's organism number 1, Jody.
Okay, this one's easy.
Good. Do it.
A snail. Just kidding.
Yeah.
It's the banana slug.
Yay.
Super famous.
Yes, super famous. And so its role in the environment. First, is it a consumer or a producer?
Consumer.
Yes. So what does it do?
It eats plant material.
Yes. Usually like stuff that's fallen on the ground. I mean, it might eat some leaves and stuff. It could definitely do that, but it's
so mostly dead stuff.
Mostly dead stuff, yeah. And it'll eat poop, you know, I mean, dead stuff that went through an animal.
Thank you, banana slug.
Yes, very good.
Because if we didn't have decomposers eating all the animal waste in the world,
yes,
the world would be covered in poo.
Absolutely, so true. And these guys have protection. They have a kind of slime on them that's semi-poisonous. And so there is an organism around here that does eat them, and we're going to see them later.
And 5th grade students at Wolf Creek sometimes lick them.
Yes, I have done that, and it makes your tongue go numb.
Not a fan
No.
of the idea of licking a slug.
I know, it's not a good one. So, all right, let's go to the next organism.
All right.
Do you recognize this?
It is it's
a berry of some sort.
It's a berry. It's an edible berry.
Yes, and it fits on your finger like the thing that you would use when
Not
you're
a gooseberry.
sewing. When you're sewing to prevent yourself from stabbing yourself.
A thimbleberry.
Yes, that is a thimbleberry.
In ribes.
Yes, ribes. You're right. So she's got the genus name. I think that's the genus because it's kingdom, phylum, class, order, family,
Yep.
genus, species, and that would be ribes. Yeah.
Which is really how when I'm out, I identify them as ribes.
Oh, cool.
Usually.
Are roses in that? I don't know. No, maybe not.
I don't think they are.
Okay, probably one.
But they're in the same
step up.
family.
Okay, same family,
Yeah.
right.
Rosaceae.
Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So that's like right before the species.
So they're cousins.
Yes, cousins.
Cousins
Neat.
to the rose.
They're delicious and they're producers. So.
And you can kind of tell from the flower that they're related to the rose.
Yes.
The flower looks somewhat similar.
It does.
To a rose.
Yeah.
Not quite as showy, but.
Yes, they have a nice, pleasant smell too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are going to be coming out after the salmon berries, and they're edible, so tasty. All right, next organism. We have here a bird. Okay, now I will give you hints for this bird because you either know this bird or you don't. It is a diving bird, diving like from the air. It dives to catch fish. It's not a gull. It looks like a gull, like a seagull.
These are the kind of mean ones.
Are they? They might be. They very well could be. I don't know.
I feel like
the first part of the name is a name in Russia, or a place in Russia, Caspian. The Caspian Sea, that's a sea. The Caspian, it's a tern.
It's a tern.
It's a
they
tern.
are kind of mean.
Are they?
Don't walk into a crowd of them at the beach.
No. What do they like, mob you or something?
They mob you.
Oh dear.
I mean, I've only seen it happen once, but once was enough, especially when you watched Alfred Hitchcock the Birds when you were 4 years old.
It's scary. But as far as being...
Way before I was ready for that kind of a nightmare.
That totally makes sense. They only eat fish, as far as I know, and they dive to catch the fish. So what classification for feeders would they be?
They would be carnivores if
Yes.
they're exclusive fish eaters.
Yes.
Or pescivores.
Pescivores, that's right.
I made that up.
It's a correct word.
It is?
Yeah, totally. Yay for you!
I know.
Frugivores are fruit eaters, so yeah.
I know things I don't even know I know.
It's incredible. All right, here is our next organism, and it is the thing that can eat banana slugs without any problem.
A salamander, but little is not in the name, is it?
It isn't. This is the largest land salamander. Sorry. This is a good conversation.
I was thinking as soon as I said salamander, it also has giant in the name.
It does. It totally does. Yeah.
Giant is a relative term.
Yes. The Pacific giant salamander. You got it.
Nice picture too with the flowers.
Yeah, it is a
or
nice picture.
Leaves.
Yes. This is goes into the water and lives as a larva, which means before it turns into an adult like this, and swims around with little gills for a very long time, like years in the water. And then metamorphoses, because that's what these amphibians do. Amphibian means double life. So they have a life in the water and then a life on the land. So they're cool, and they definitely eat Those banana slugs that are slightly poisonous.
And banana slugs, if you don't live here locally, get quite large.
They do.
So having then something big that eats them makes a lot of sense.
And they stalk them in a really kind of entertaining way. It's like a dinosaur. They just, like it's going to run away from them. We had one in Trinidad that it lived in a little crevice, and we would always watch it. It wasn't a pet, obviously, but we would just observe it. It was very cool to watch.
And stalking a banana slug has to be one of the easiest jobs in the animal kingdom.
I think so. Yeah, right.
Like, hey, I hunt the slowest animal on Earth, the slowest land animal.
Yes.
Might be a garden snail, maybe a banana slug. We could have a race.
Yeah, we could have a race, and I'm not sure there'd be much competition there. All right, we'll move on to the next organism, which is a mammal.
I'm guessing this is a bear.
Yes, and the kind of bear that we used to have grizzly bears here, but we killed all of the grizzly bears, so we don't have those anymore.
Not Pam and I personally.
Not us personally, that's right. We did not, thank you, Jody, for that. No, but back in the 1800s, that did happen. In fact, in California, the grizzly bear is the bear of California. I mean, it is this on the seal of California. But we don't have them anymore, so they're fairly dangerous.
Yeah, I knew they used to live in California, and I have always felt like I don't miss them.
Yeah, right. This is a black bear, which is a more common bear than the grizzly bear because they're found in places all in the continental United States, not
and smaller.
Smaller, yeah. So
still, if you see one with the cub,
yes, a good idea to stay clear, keep clear. And this guy eats. Any ideas on the vor name for this?
Omnivore.
Yep. And bears have the same kind of molars that we do.
Interesting.
They're rounded molars, and they're for eating plants and animals.
And quite a bit larger than ours, I would imagine.
Quite a bit. Their canines are huge. Yeah, they're really big. Okie doke. These geese.
Also a fairly aggressive bird.
Yeah, but these won't be because they're scared to death of you. This is a special brand of a Canada goose, which is what we have around here, and they just left to go up to the Aleutian Islands.
Okay.
So these are Aleutian cackling geese, and they're the ones who you see flying over, making that high sort of noise. Yeah, and they have that white collar. They're smaller than the Canada goose, and they have that white collar. So that's your key, and that they come in the fall and then they leave in the spring. They hang out here and they eat grass.
In large numbers.
In large numbers, that's right.
They hang out in
large
numbers. They almost
were extinct, though, in the Aleutian Islands because there was the fox up there, the Arctic fox, and it ate the eggs, so they had to move or get rid of them from the Aleutian Islands, and they're amazing comeback story.
The Arctic fox, did it get to the Aleutians on its own, or was that human introduction?
It might have been, and I don't know the whole story, so that's a good question, right? Because sometimes there's like cats or rats somewhere, and they came from boats. But I don't know about the fox, so anyway, yeah.
Which, if you've never seen an Arctic fox molting, that is an internet rabbit hole you should go down.
Oh my goodness, now I'm going to do that after the show.
They're super cute.
Oh, that's very cool. All right, well, what do we all recognize this as?
A mushroom.
Yes.
Fungus.
Yes, indeed it is. And the question about this is, what name do we have here? And this is a very popular mushroom that people go out and they look for, and they really covet because it's got a delicious taste. And it's called a chanterelle.
Oh.
This is a chanterelle.
I've never seen one growing in the grass like that.
Yeah, huh?
I mean, I guess we don't see the whole...
The whole thing. You got to see the whole thing. I mean, it might be underneath us, whatever kind of tree it likes, or it's quite possible. But these guys are decomposers and very, very valuable. As Jody said earlier, we'd be covered in dead stuff. With the detritivores, decomposers are good.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Now, this is a really cool insect. So we have 3 different life phases. Well, actually, just 2. The one on the bottom is when it builds this little home for itself that it lives in, and it's kind of worm-like body, the one on the bottom, and it runs around in this larval form. Larva goes egg, larva, pupa, adult. So actually, there's 4 phases. But this one lives in the water for a longer time, much, much longer than the maybe a few days to a month that the adults live. The adult is in the upper left corner. So the adults fly, and the larva isn't in the water. This is called a caddisfly.
Caddisfly.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of them over on the right on a rock. So they make this kind of glue that sticks the stuff together that makes their home, and then sticks them to the rock. And so this is a really common food for fish. They eat them. They just crunch them all up. So some people use them as bait. Yes, you can pull them out of that thing, and then it's not good for the caddisfly, but you can catch a fish with it.
So found in aquatic ecosystems.
Yes, found in aquatic ecosystems, right. And so they mate as adults up in the air, flying around, and then they lay their eggs in the water, and there you go.
Very nice.
Yes. All right. Hey, you were talking about hawks earlier before the show. This is a hawk that we have in Humboldt County, and fastest hawk alive, falcon actually.
Peregrine.
It is a peregrine. Yep.
And they can achieve speeds of 250 miles an hour in a dive, is that correct?
Oh my Lord, I don't know. That sounds crazy, but if possible, I don't know, but that's amazing.
And they have so many adaptations to do that. For example, their eyes, their tears are super viscous or thick. To protect them when they're traveling at such high speeds. Because even a grain of sand or something at that rate could be devastating to a delicate structure like the eye. And you're depending on your eyes to hit your prey, of course. Yeah,
they're amazing. They're so impressive, and they're very cool. They there's a lot of, they feed on shorebirds, they feed on pigeons. If you're a bird, you better watch out for this bird, because it's
so it's a bird hawk.
It's a bird hawk, yeah, basically. I mean, these guys don't go into the water to get fish like an osprey, or like what we saw, the tern.
Right. That one's easy. Rough-skinned newt.
Yes, 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 yes. And boy, talk about poisonous. Massive poisonous. There was a story of a couple that was camping, and the rough-skinned newt accidentally got in their coffee, died, of course, and then they died from drinking the coffee.
Wow.
It is, now the main thing is, it's not poisonous, it's not going to bite you or anything. But if you get the secretion on your skin and then you touch it to your mouth, that's where it's bad.
Or if you roast one in your coffee.
That's real bad.
Yeah.
They do warn you they have an orange belly, and they hold their head up to, like, I'm not safe. Orange, red, sometimes yellow.
Sometimes blue.
Sometimes blue, that's right. Is not like the poison dart frogs.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. But we have lots of these, and they're in Oregon, they're here, and I like looking at them.
I do too, cool. And I've seen them even on the coast. So in in the sand, walking
Arcata
around.
Marsh. Oh, and you've seen them in the, that's so cool, at the beach.
Literally at the beach, in the dunes.
Very neat.
All right.
Okay, we've got a tree here.
And
it's pokes your hands.
Prickly piscia, spiky spruce.
Nice, yeah. So there you go. Spiky spruce is a great way to remember it. It's when you put your hand around the branch and those needles poke you. It's painful. Spruce, whatever it is, Sitka spruce or whatever. But that's a great way. Prickly spruce.
And the genus name is piscia. So prickly piscia, spiky spruce.
Oh,
that's
cool.
a good way to remember.
That's a really good way to remember.
So if you're cutting greens for a wreath, when you come upon the spruce, it's a little harder.
You better be careful. Yeah, and these are their typical cones. What their cones look like, kind of really papery, unlike a pine cone, which is hard.
And producer.
Yes, absolutely, producer. And producers absorb carbon and give off oxygen. So we would not be here without trees like this, without plants. We would not be here.
No animals. Yeah,
no animals.
Scientists think that our atmosphere is full of oxygen because of producers.
Yes, and they actually need the oxygen too when they do cellular respiration. So they do need it, but we really need it more than and they are the ones that also make the food.
Right.
Yes, glucose.
Bottom of the food chain.
Yes.
And food webs.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, now we can go the general name for this fish here. You want to try for the general name?
Salmon.
Yep. I had to look it up because I didn't remember. The black mouth so the kinds of salmon, we have coho salmon, we have Chinook salmon, we have steelhead. I mean, they're kind of salmonid, which is the name for the basic group. This is a Chinook or a king salmon. Both those names work for this fish.
I ate one of these for lunch, not a whole one.
Oh, nice. Oh my goodness.
part of one.
Oh, that's very cool. Yes, around here, these used to be way more plentiful than they are now because their habitat it's more difficult to find creeks that aren't filled in with silt. So they need cobble or stones to move around to lay their eggs, and that need to be aerated. So this is a really important creature, though, here in Humboldt County.
And even when we've learned recently, science has learned recently that they are really important for the environment in the sense of when they die, after they spawn, when they die, they introduce a lot of really important nutrients into the spawning grounds.
Yes, they do. It's super important. Yeah, it helps the trees to grow and stay healthy. So, and of course feeds the animals like bears. That black bear we saw would like to eat that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and us.
Yeah, and me, obviously.
All right, so you may know this one because it is a seaweed that is...
And it's palm something.
Sea palm.
Sea palm.
Yes, yes, the sea palm. And so we've got these in tide pool areas, and they're right on the edge of the coast, and they are producers.
Right. And a lot of the oxygen from Earth is produced in the ocean.
Yes, and the carbon dioxide that's absorbed, the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's important.
So really important.
I love the name of this one.
And I know it has something to do with the shape of the scales.
Yes, it does.
It's fringy.
Yes.
Fringe something.
Shaggy.
Shaggy.
Shaggy mane.
Shaggy mane.
Shaggy mane. And these are edible. And when let's talk about mushrooms and edibility.
No mushrooms are edible in my mind.
Yeah. And I know exactly what Jody is saying because you can make mistakes, and mistakes are, especially with white mushrooms that look like, hey, this is the stuff I buy in the store, so why not? But they can have poison in them. The death angel is a type of mushroom I didn't show in here, but it looks like a mushroom that you would buy at the store with the same kind of gills and everything. So you have to be very careful with mushrooms. There you go. Yes, don't try. All right.
Limpets.
Yes. This is an animal that is a mollusk. So it's related to the octopus, to the squid, to the snail, to mollusks. They're shelled animals, clams. So these are cool because do you know what they feed on?
I'm gonna guess algae on the rocks.
Yes, you got it. And if you look, its little mouth is right there on the lower
right.
Wow. It's
Very
adorable little mouth and his little
snail-like.
tentacles. Yes,
Very snail-like.
And they have the radula, which is the little tongue that has these little spiky things on it.
Yeah, it's got teeth on the tongue.
Little teeth on the tongue. Yes,
like a snail or a slug.
So look at it's probably near some algae right now, which is also
cruising
seaweed.
around at a very slow rate of speed.
Yep. Some birds like to eat these. They just pick them off with their beak, and the oyster catcher. There's probably other seabirds that eat them, but they're not very big in terms of us eating them. But yeah,
they're
small.
about this big.
Yeah. All right, let's go to here. This is the California state bird.
The California quail.
Yes, they are very cool. Arcata Marsh has some.
I get these in my neighborhood.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, very nice.
It is. They're great. The male is more colorful because he's like territorial, and the female has to be not, so she can lay the eggs and be camouflaged.
And they've scared the bejesus out of me when I've been hiking.
Oh, because they fly up.
When you come upon, they'll be rooting around on the ground and you come upon them and they flush.
Oh, yes.
And I've jumped about a mile, not realizing I had walked up onto them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I really like them. They're great birds.
I am fond of them myself.
This is the only turtle we have in Humboldt County that is native.
Western pond turtle.
That's it, absolutely. And so it's a very cool turtle. You can see it, and I've seen it in tributaries of the Eel River. And
I've seen it in the Mad.
Nice. So in rivers, they do really well. And actually, Sequoia Park used to have a bunch of them. And they may still, how they took all the ducks out of the duck pond? There were a bunch of Western pond turtles in there, too.
Oh,
so
outstanding.
I'm not sure.
I found one once near Bridgeville, actually, and it was only about this big, so it must have just hatched. And I carefully picked it up, and you know, just by picking it up and like looking at it and making observations of it in my hand, the shell was as flexible as like a fingernail. Oh my gosh. When it was that tiny. Wow. Which was really interesting because I've seen birds swallow them whole.
Oh, that makes sense then.
And yeah, and I always wondered, how do they pull that off? And what I learned by picking up the little teeny tiny hatchling, that was very hard to see, I was in shallow water, was that their shells are actually pretty soft.
Oh, that is very cool. And I'm not even sure what these guys, if they're omnivores or they're carnivores or they're herbivores. I don't know.
I'm going to guess omnivores, just based on other turtles.
That makes sense.
Other freshwater turtles.
All right, there's two different names for this tree. Oregon has one, and Oregon claims it's the right one, and California has one, and California...
They're quite waxy.
Yes. Speaking of forest...
Sword fern.
We do, sword fern, because the little tiny parts of the leaf looks like a little sword, kind of a hilt of a sword.
Right.
Try the next one. We're going to the ocean now.
This is a hard one. Gooseneck barnacles.
Yes, this is gooseneck barnacle. These are cool. Some barnacles we're used to seeing are the little short ones that look like a little tiny volcano. And these they're neat, the way they have the little pinch here thing.
They are pretty
remarkable. And they kind of look like geese, the shape of their heads. Yep.
Robin.
Yes, the American robin.
Robin,
you got it.
egg blue.
Yes, very nice.
Roosevelt elk.
You got it.
Big leaf maple.
Big leaf maple. We're zooming through these. We're not really talking about the ecosystem,
but who cares? Don't know about this one.
This is called a surf scoter. They're so awesome. They're. I love look at the crazy
eyes,
colors and everything. Yeah, the male's there and the female's eating some kind of mollusk down there. But yeah, they're awesome. So really like these birds. They just look cool. They're diving ducks.
Everybody's favorite. The Pacific tree frog.
Yes, they're awesome.
This looks like a Himalayan blackberry.
Indeed it is. They're delicious. Blackberry pie. Who doesn't like that?
Invasive.
Invasive for sure.
Amanita.
Yes,
highly
Amanita
poisonous.
mushroom. Exactly.
Looks like the Smurfs live there.
Be careful.
Yes. Sea star.
Yes, this is an ochre sea star, which is the different color. We have purple and orange. So, yes. They just had a festival in Arcada. God. The Godwit days. This is the marbled Godwit.
I thought you were shocked I didn't know. I don't know my birds.
No, don't worry. It's all good. Look at the pink at the top and the dark in the bottom. And they're really cool shorebirds.
Very cool. Oxalis.
Yes, Oxalis redwood sorrel. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you guys have tuned in. It was really a fun show. Look around you. See you. Organisms are awesome.